What is up, guys? Welcome back to Ran When Parked. I'm happy to have you here. This video today is going to be a little bit different than the norm, and that is because I am not physically working on anything, which is going to be weird. But I posted a video not that long ago titled How to Build the Ultimate Budget Turbo LS Engine, and a lot of people liked that video. A lot of people watched that video, and a lot of people commented on that video, and a lot of people also commented on my Instagram about that video and asked me all kinds of follow-up questions about doing LS swaps and building engines. And it seems that that video accomplished something, and that is it answered a lot of the very basic questions that a lot of people ask about doing this. So what I decided to do was do like a follow-up video kind of along the same path that's basically just like 10 minutes, and I'm just going to answer as many questions as possible, common questions about the basic systems that you need to put an LS engine in anything. Because honestly, guys, it's not nearly as hard as some people make it sound, or maybe that some people believe it is. It's really kind of simple. I've done it a bunch of different times, and I am going to show you all the basics that you need. And I think if you watch this video for like 10 minutes, I'm going to try to keep it to that, I think you could probably swap an LS engine into anything you want and make it run. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get cracking on that. Guys, one more thing before we get going on this video. Did you know that 96.6% of YouTube videos have less than 10,000 subscribers? Shocking. I know, because all the ones you know have a ton of subscribers, 100,000, 200,000, a million, 10 million, whatever. The vast majority of YouTube videos, or YouTube channels that is, never get past 10,000 subscribers. My goal for this year is to get this channel to 10,000 subscribers, but it is very, very difficult to do. It takes a ton of effort. Not that many people actually subscribe, even though I get a fair amount of views. So I need you guys to punch that subscribe button right now, because I really want to get there, and I really want you guys to help me out. Maybe you want to learn more about LS engines. I will post a lot more stuff. Maybe you want to learn more about my FJ40 Land Cruiser over here. Maybe you want to see me finish building my twin-turbo LS RX-7 outside, or my 63 Ford. Or maybe you're just watching this video, and you're like, Sean, what the heck is the deal with that badass Ultima GTR sitting right behind you? You will learn all that and more. So help a brother out. Punch that subscribe button. I think it's like down... It's to the left, and I'm in the camera. So down here, it's down over there, right below the video. Hit it right now. During the intro, you will have 10 seconds of nothing to do. Punch that subscribe button. That's the end of my shameless plea for subscribers. Let's get moving. All right, gang, let's get started. So this is my 76 FJ40 Land Cruiser. I am in the middle of LS swapping it, and this is a perfect opportunity to explain to you guys the very, very basic components that you need to get an LS swap in the car and running. You can do this on virtually any vehicle, no matter what it is. So let's start with the basics. Mounting, right? Okay, so this thing was already set up for a small block Chevy. So all I had to do was buy some conversion brackets. I think ICT Billet makes those. I know Dirty Dingo also makes those. And they bolt up to an LS and they convert over to a Chevy 350. Those things are like 30 bucks, 40 bucks, no big deal. They're billet. These things, these mounts, are just general universal mounts. They're available from Summit Racing or anyone on Amazon. They are very, very cheap. That is the easiest way to do this. These mounts on the frame, these are bolt-ins. And those are Land Cruiser specific items, but you can buy those for just about anything. I welded them on because it's the right way to do it, but you can actually bolt them. So if you don't have any welding capabilities whatsoever, you can still do this. Mounting is the easiest thing ever. All you really want to do is make sure you have a little bit of angle backwards so the oil actually goes to the sump, degree and a half, something like that. Take the intake off, put an angle finder on the cover under there, and the valley cover that is, and you know, that's it. Make sure the thing's kind of in the middle. Mount it up, bolt it all in. That is the easy part. So two other relatively basic components that we can cover quickly here is the main power supply, and also we will talk about the steam ports here because that is an important LS specific thing. So main power supply. You got your starter down here, you have your starter lug. All you need to do is run like a double-aught wire, double O that is, gauge from your battery to there, and then you run like 4-gauge wire, which is really easy to find, from the starter up to the lug on the alternator right here, and then you can daisy chain right from that into your fuse box that runs your car. That is all you need. Big wire to the starter, smaller wire to the alt, smaller wire to the car. You'll run it all. The other thing here is the steam line. That is this guy. And all that has to do is go to a high point in the cooling system. Does not matter where it is. A lot of radiators, aftermarket radiators, will have like a vent in the top for it. You can just plug it in right there, or you can just put it into your top radiator hose. No problem. The bubbles will go uphill. Everything will be right in the world. That is very simple also. I probably could have done this first, but basic LS system stuff or LS engine stuff, it all breaks down into a car engine or a truck engine. Car engines are actual LSs. Truck engines have a variety of other model names, LM7, LY5, LH6, L33, you name it, there's a million of them. LQ4 is a common one, 6 liter. Also, truck engines are iron block, car engines are aluminum block. Here's the real decision factor though. How big is the engine bay in your car? Because I will tell you right now, a car engine with a car intake and a car oil pan, for example, an F-body oil pan, if we're talking about Gen 3 stuff, is 5.5 inches shorter than a truck engine. So if that matters to you, then you should go with a car engine, because I'm here to tell you guys, 10 years ago, you could get an F-body oil pan and like an LS1 intake for pretty cheap. That stuff is really expensive now. So it might actually be cheaper to go the aluminum block route from the beginning as opposed to trying to convert it to get that 5.5 inches back. However, if you can fit the truck intake, it does make more power. The pan does hold a little bit more oil. So it is one way to go. The other thing is the accessories. The accessories do have different offsets, slightly different offsets between truck and car. The big difference being that on a car, the power steering pump is here, the alt is over here, at least an F-body, that is to say. On a truck, the alt is over here, the power steering pump is down there. For me, I don't have an AC compressor, but I think on both of them it goes down there anyway, so that is not a big deal. If you can fit the truck stuff, it is the cheapest way to go. If you need the car stuff, again, I'm not sure in this day and age it's worth trying to convert a truck engine over to a car style with the pan, the intake, and the accessories. That would be a very expensive route. Buy a car engine. One more thing quickly while I'm over here, MAF plug. They are really, 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 really long on these truck harnesses. Definitely cut it and shorten it. You don't have to use it. In fact, if you don't plug it in like I don't have here, it will automatically revert to speed density mode and it will run. However, for drivability, I would strongly suggest building a decent intake and putting your MAF back in. All right, guys, it's probably dark under here, but let's talk about the fuel system real quick. So this is a relatively inexpensive pump from Summit Racing. It probably cost me about $125. LS engines all run off 58 PSI, so just find yourself an EFI pump that will run at least 58 PSI. The other thing you need to know is that behind the pump, you want a 100 micron filter. In front of the pump, you want a 10 micron filter. Anything EFI with multi-port fuel injection, you want a 10 micron filter prior to the injectors, otherwise you are asking for problems. This is a relatively inexpensive setup. Do not skimp on the filters, you'll live to regret it. Next is going to be transmission options. You have a million transmission options. Here's the beauty about LS engines, and really maybe the genius of the General Motors in general. I don't know. That's a double negative. The bell housings are all the same. So you can take an LS engine, you can take a small block Chevy, and you can bolt all the same transmissions up to them. So I have an LS engine with a T56. I also have an LS engine right here with a TH350. Those two transmissions are separated by 40 years or maybe even more than that. They bolt up to the same bell housing. So you can put any transmission you want behind this thing. Power Glide, TH350, TH400, 700R4, 4L80, 4L60, T5, T56, you name it, doesn't matter. It's very, very simple. And for like the Turbo Hydromatics, the TH350 and TH400, it's really just an aftermarket flex plate, and then you just use a TH350 torque converter, and you're off to the races. It's a really simple route. So I'm not going to talk too much about the transmissions because you can do anything you want with that, but it's simple. Real quick, cooling. They're not hard to cool, guys. This one's relatively simple. This is a factory FJ40 Land Cruiser radiator, well, style radiator. Obviously, it's an aluminum one, but this is for a straight 6. It will cool this thing. I built a few LS engines, and I've never used anything other than the stock radiator. They just don't run that hot. Actually, they do in actuality. You can run them very hot without damaging them, but they do not actually run hot. Put a 160-degree thermostat in the thing and send it. No big deal. This thing will do the job. So for the rest of the fuel system, this is all factory truck stuff. So plastic fuel rails, injectors in there, all factory. All that stuff is original stuff. All you really have to do is convert over to like an AN line. That's the cheapest, easiest way to do it. And they make these converters that'll just snap onto the factory rails. That's the easiest way to do it. And remember, the return line is low pressure. You can just use a rubber hose as long as it's fuel rated. I will give you guys a little tidbit here, and that is that the trucks, as opposed to the cars, came with a vacuum referenced regulator. Two things about that. One, You don't have to buy a regulator because it's built in, so that's kind of cool. You just give it 58 PSI and then full send. Actually, you give it full pressure and it'll regulate to 58 PSI, that is. However, let's think about the other side of that. If this is a vacuum reference regulator, then it's also a boost reference regulator, right? So if you're gonna hit this thing with a little bit of boost, a little supercharger or something like that, full send, guys. It'll actually support it right from the factory. Again, thank the General for that. For exhaust, this is a set of Edelbrock like shorty headers I just had laying around. They were actually on my RX-7 before I turbocharged it, and they were in the scrap pile, so they're on this thing now. However, if you're just doing a basic swap, look at the different types of factory exhaust manifolds that were offered. The truck manifolds fit pretty tight and go out the back. CTS manifolds, CTS-V manifolds that is, fit pretty tight and go straight out the bottom. C6 manifolds fit pretty tight. C5 manifolds fit pretty tight. Look at your options. I would advise not overthinking it and spending $1,200 on a set of headers if you don't have to, because oftentimes it's really just not worth it. You do have to keep your O2 sensors back here, but we'll talk about that a second when we talk about wiring. Don't overthink the exhaust, guys. Now, before we get to the elephant in the room, which is the wiring harness, and I think the thing that scares most people about swapping in EFI, let's talk about a couple ancillary details. The air system, don't need it, you can tune it out. The EGR system, don't need it, you can tune it out. NOx sensors, don't need them, you can tune them out. You don't really use them for anything on a factory engine with the factory tune anyway, so just send that computer out, get it tuned, get rid of the VAT system, the security system, get rid of air, get rid of EGR, get rid of the rear O2 sensors because you don't need those either, and get rid of those NOx sensors, and you'll be off to the races. As far as eliminating air and EGR, they do make little kits for these. However, you can just put expansion plugs from the hardware store in them. They're like $2 each. This one I 3D printed. However, on my RX-7, it is just an expansion plug in there, and on this is just an expansion plug in there. Very cheap, very easy, very effective. All right, guys, so I think I saved the best for last, and the reason part of the reason why I made this video is because the Land Cruiser happens to have an unloomed harness right here. Now, I converted this harness on my own. This is definitely the elephant in the room. I think this is the thing that scares most people about doing this swap. And I'm here to tell you guys, it's way easier than anyone makes it sound. These days, it's really, really common to just put a standalone in, and I would warn against that. 1, very expensive. 2, not quite as easy as it seems to just get it up and running and driving. Certainly not with the drivability that was available from the factory. And 3, absolutely not necessary in most situations. I think a lot of guys these days, because of the availability of like the Holley Terminator X and stuff, forget the fact that there was dudes making 1,000 wheel horsepower on the factory ECM 20 years ago, and they work absolutely fantastic, and you can tune the heck out of them, and they're super capable. So this is coming from someone who, my RX-7 does have a Holley Dominator and runs off of that, and it's absolutely great for big power situations. For 90% of these projects, guys that just want to get the thing up and running, factory ECU, boys. Now, how do you make that work? Well, I would start by going to lt1swap.com. I'll put a link down in the description to that, and I just want to say right now that I do not even know who owns lt1swap.com. I do not know the guy. This is not a promotion. I've just been using his directions for years on multiple projects, and they're great. He can also tune your ECU for a really fair price, so take a look at that. Now, on its most basic level, and I swear this is true, you can cut all the black wires and ground them. You can cut all the pink wires and put them to constant power. You can cut all the orange wires and put them to key on power. You can put power to the purple starter wire, and this thing will run. It'll only run for a couple seconds because of the security system, which you will have to tune out, but it will run. Now, if you want to take that to the next level, and I would strongly advise it because that's not a fuse system and it would be really stupid to try to run it long term like that, you can run this thing off 4 fuses and 2 relays. Let me show you how. This is a Dorman fuse box and Dorman relay plugs. This whole engine in the Land Cruiser was running off of this. The only reason it's not in there is because I recently replaced it and redid the wiring. However, this whole thing is like $10, $12 on Amazon, something like that. Very inexpensive, pretty high quality, and does the job perfectly. The directions on how to use this are on lt1swap.com, and there's great directions on how to wire this whole thing up. However, I will tell you that one of these relays is the key on power, so the key switches the main power on. 3 of them are key on power to the ECM, which is all your pink wires. One of them is not key on power, it is constant power. It goes to your orange wires on the ECM, and the other one is to trigger the fuel pump. Really, really simple, guys. Couldn't be more simple. And all those wires are available right in the harness right here. I now have them all pinned in. Honestly, I swear when I tell you guys, The worst part about doing this is cutting the old tape off. I really mean that. It's really that simple. Everything can be depinned from the harness and found very, very simply. You can pull from the ECM all the way back and remove your rear O2s, your air, your EGR, your NOx sensors, everything. You can pull out all your important stuff like speed sensor outputs, like your tow haul mode, which you can use, like your fan grounds. All that stuff is very easily available. VSS, speed sensor, TAC output, etc. All of it's right there. Honestly, I can convert one of these harnesses in like a day. If I can do it, you can do it because I'm not that smart, right? So if anybody is scared to do an LS swap because of the harness, don't. Look up a good set of instructions, set this thing up on a piece of plywood where you can label it, cut that harness off and go for it. I promise you, you won't regret it. The last thing I'll say about keeping the factory harness and the factory computer is they're basically free. No one thinks you're going to use them. So when you buy these things, like at the junkyard or whatever, it almost always comes with a harness. I have a box of these things out in my shed from engines that I bought over the years because people just give them away like they have no value. It is absolutely the way to go. That's about all I got for you guys. Gonna be the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button because I really, really want to get to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm going to plead one more time. And if you want to learn anything more about LS engines, definitely keep an eye on the channel because I think I might do a very basic LS swap, probably into an S10 or something, just to show everyone in a longer format how ridiculously simple the whole thing is. If you have any particular questions about anything I've talked about, LS related or fabrication related, post it in the comments. I reply to virtually every comment, so I'm happy to answer questions. I want to help people learn. That's why I started the channel. And for those that are subscribed and have been watching for a long time, don't worry, guys. This is just a bonus video. I have a lot more coming on the Land Cruiser in like 2 days. I'm going to post a bunch of videos soon. So a lot of content coming up. I will see you guys next time on Ramblin' Parked.